All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on Carry On. It's a Netflix thriller, has all the classic elements you would want: holiday travel chaos, a protagonist in a tough spot, and a ticking clock. We've got reviews, plot summaries, even some behind the scenes stuff. So we're going to find the most interesting parts and just kind of lay it all out.
The thing that stood out to me was that it takes this familiar setting, Christmas at LAX, I mean, arguably one of the most stressful travel times, right?
So,
And just cranks up the tension with this really serious plot.
right, yeah, who hasn't had that holiday travel anxiety? But in this movie, the protagonist, Ethan Kopech, a TSA agent, he's trying to be a cop, but his plans get totally derailed when he's blackmailed into helping this mysterious traveler smuggle something through security.
Yeah, and the threat to Ethan is really personal. This traveler is threatening his pregnant girlfriend. Like, talk about pressure. It really makes you wonder, what would you do in that situation?
Yeah, exactly. And they don't waste any time showing you just how dangerous this traveler is. The opening scene is so stark and chilling. The guy accepts a package and then kills this Russian dealer and his nephew without a second thought.
It's such a strong way to set up the stakes right away. You see the traveler's ruthlessness, and it makes you wonder, how can Ethan, an ordinary guy, possibly negotiate with this guy?
And the way the traveler controls Ethan is right out of some spy thriller. He gives Ethan an earbud, so he's constantly in Ethan's ear, whispering threats and instructions.
You can practically feel that claustrophobia, right? Even though he's in a crowded airport, Ethan can't escape the traveler's voice, his demands. It really adds to that psychological tension.
Yeah, like he's trapped in some nightmare. But Ethan's not just blindly taking orders. He tries to outsmart the traveler in these kind of clever but also desperate ways. He tries to call 911 without anyone noticing. He sends a message from his smartwatch, even writes a message on a boarding pass using, get this, stain remover.
It really shows how resourceful Ethan is. He's not a superhero or anything, just an ordinary guy in this insane situation. It makes you think, how far would you go to protect your loved ones?
So while all this is happening, there's also this whole other investigation going on. LAPD Detective Elena Cole and DHS agent John Alcott are investigating the deaths of that Russian dealer and his nephew, the guys from the beginning, at a Christmas tree farm. And their investigation leads them to LAX and the traveler's plan.
Yeah, having those two storylines going at the same time just creates more suspense. The audience knows about the danger, but most of the characters are totally in the dark. And you just keep wondering when and how those two stories are going to collide.
Yeah, and when those stories collide, it is something else. It all comes to a head at LAX, and you're right there with Ethan as he's trying to stay ahead of the traveler, and it builds up to this insane fight scene in a moving vehicle, almost like if you mixed Bourne Identity and Speed, but it's all happening in an airport. Oh man, the tension must be crazy. And speaking of action movies, I read that some critics are comparing it to Die Hard 2. They're even saying that it does the whole Die Hard in an airport thing better than Die Hard 2 did.
Wow, that's saying something. But it seems like the movie's trying to go for those classic, over-the-top action thrills. Carry On isn't just trying to keep you in suspense, it's also trying to give you those edge-of-your-seat action sequences.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're mixing a lot of different elements together. But I know the reviews have been mixed. I saw that some critics liked the action and the actors, particularly Taron Egerton, who plays Ethan. But others thought that the plot was a little too far-fetched.
Yeah, that's pretty common for action thrillers. You kind of have to just go with it and accept some of the more unbelievable parts if you want to enjoy the ride. And from what I've heard, it seems like Carry On is going for the fun factor. It's not a movie that takes itself too seriously.
Right, it's going for that holiday escapism vibe, even though the stakes are super high. But even with the action and the thrills, the movie is also exploring some interesting things with the characters.
For sure. You've got Ethan, this average guy who just wants to be a cop, but then he's suddenly forced to be brave and clever in ways that he never imagined. It makes you think, what are we all capable of? Like, what would we do if we were pushed to our limits?
Yeah, that transformation is a big part of why he's such an engaging character. You're watching him go through this impossible situation, making decisions that are unthinkable, constantly having to improvise to stay alive.
And it makes the audience ask themselves the same question. What would you do if you were in his position? Could you rise to the occasion and find that inner strength and then somehow outsmart this criminal, or would you just crumble under the pressure?
Those are questions that you don't easily forget, even after the movie's over. And that's part of what makes Carry On more than just another action movie. It's a story about how anyone can be a hero.
Right. It reminds us that amazing things can happen anywhere, even during the holidays, even in a regular place like an airport. And sometimes, the people you'd least expect, like a TSA agent with a dream, can become the heroes.
It's interesting how the movie uses the holidays, like all that holiday travel stress, to make things even more intense. The crowds, the delays, trying to get everything right. But then imagine having to deal with all of that while also knowing about this huge threat that no one else even suspects.
Yeah, it's a really cool contrast. You've got the decorations, everyone's excited about seeing family, but underneath it all, there's this sense of dread that only Ethan knows about. It's almost like a hidden time bomb.
Yeah, and the way it plays on those anxieties that we all have is really smart. You see Ethan dealing with this crazy airport, and it makes you think about your own experiences traveling. Have you ever felt like you were the only one who saw the danger? Like something bad was about to happen, but everyone else was oblivious.
Totally. It taps into that fear of the unknown. Like even when you're someplace familiar, something bad could be lurking around the corner.
Exactly. So for our listeners, why should they care about this movie about a TSA agent caught in this crazy conspiracy?
Well, for one thing, Carry On is a fun, exciting thriller. You can just escape into this world of action and suspense for a while. But it also makes you think about what it would be like to be an ordinary person facing something extraordinary. It reminds you that heroes can come from anywhere.
And maybe, just maybe, we all have more strength than we think. We might surprise ourselves with how much courage we can find when we're really tested.
So next time you're at the airport, stuck in that security line, take a look around. You never know, someone might be fighting a secret battle right next to you.
And maybe you'll be inspired by their strength, their determination to do the right thing, even when it's really hard. That's what's so great about a story like Carry On. Even with all the chaos and uncertainty, there's always hope. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.